And we're live. Hello again from Worcester State University. My name is Thomas Kelly, and I'm Associate Director of Residence Life. And this is Hangouts Before You Woo Life. Hangouts Before You Woo Life is an online web show geared towards new residents at Worcester State University. As always, we're here to discuss the important topics and that will assist you with living on campus and transitioning here to Worcester State. If you miss an episode, you can check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WSUResLife. We have a playlist there with all of them. You can binge watch all of these episodes. They're like 10 minutes a piece. Not too bad. All right, let's get started. If you want to join in the conversation, make sure that you hashtag WooLife, and we'll check it out on our stream. We'll answer any questions that we see. I'm excited to be joined again by Josh Katz, Coordinator of Student Conduct. Josh, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
So you were here for the orientation show?
Yes, about a month ago.
Yeah, right. We got orientation going on this week and next week. But outside of orientation, you have another role here on campus. Do you want to tell the folks at home or streaming a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm the coordinator of student conduct here on campus. So basically what that means is my office oversees that policies and procedures of the university are followed. If something happens and a policy or violation is broken, then the students would come through my office to kind of rectify that and get a solution.
Great. Well, you've been here before, so you know that we have questions and you have answers. So let's start with the questions. What should a resident know about the policies here on campus?
Well, I think the biggest thing for them to know is that they do exist, and they do exist for specific reasons. These policies are put in place to provide a safe and welcoming environment for all students that live and come to Worcester State. I need to preface this by saying that myself, TK, and all of the people involved in my office do know that people make mistakes, and that's fine. This is an educational institution. You're here to learn, and we want you to learn from those mistakes. We'd rather that happen here, where we can work on it administratively, than have it really happen outside of campus and have there be kind of a record on the student's record, criminal record. And I think the biggest thing is education. Learn from it. If you're put in the same situation that got you in trouble the first time, and it happens again, and you make a different choice, then that means we've done our job and you've learned from it.
Great. So let's talk a little bit. Where can students find our residence hall and our policies here on campus?
So all of our university policies can be found online at worcester.edu/code of conduct, all one word. For resident students specifically, the Residence Life Handbook is online at woolife.worcester.edu, as well as the first floor meeting that you have when you move in on move-in day. Your RAs will go over a lot of the bigger policies and procedures that you should know. I do want to point out that it is the student's responsibility to know and be aware of the policies. Just because an RA doesn't go over them at their floor meeting doesn't mean you don't have to follow them. So by all means, don't read through cover to cover, but you should familiarize yourself with the university policies before you arrive to campus in September.
For sure. And for those of you who read your license agreement, a lot of the policies are also outlined in that documentation too. So there you go. You've already started reading it. All right. So we're talking about policies. What happens if a student violates a policy?
So if a student violates a policy, let's now, it's not the end of the world. We can work through it. A member of staff or a student res life, a resident assistant, well, it's not like I didn't do res life, an RA or a desk assistant will document the situation. Some people would call it being written up. We call it documenting because the person who documents it doesn't really know what's going to happen, except they're going to document the situation. Once the situation is documented, it will come to my office in Res Life, and we'll discuss it. We'll figure, is this a policy violation? Is this something that just needs to be kind of FYI'd and put in the back filing cabinet for future? If it is something that would go through conduct, a notification would be sent to you via your email. You have to click on a link in the email, put in your student ID number, and collect your letter. That letter would have a date, time, and location for your hearing. And those hearings are based on students' schedules only. It doesn't take into account work extracurricular activities, sports, any of that stuff. The only thing it takes into account is your class schedule. With that said, if there's an issue, come talk to the hearing officer. They may not be able to move it because of their schedule as well, but in most situations, if you come to a hearing officer prior to, not 5 minutes before, but if you get it and you know you have work or practice and you go to them, we were going to do our best to try and switch it. It's those who wait to the last minute that we're going to go by the book and say that it's based on the student schedule only. So once you come to the hearing, it's an administrative conversation to kind of talk about what happened. The report will be read. You'll tell your side of the story. And it's just an open dialogue with the hearing officer and the accused student as to what happened. Why did you make the decision you did? What could you have done differently next time? What could be the outcomes from this? And how will we move forward? After that's done, the student will receive the results, again, via email the same way. Click on the link, put in your student ID number, and your results letter will be there for you. If you are found responsible for a policy violation, there could be sanctions. Sanctions are things to do such as an alcohol education class, such as community service hours, a fine, some work with the resident assistants in the halls, kind of where the affected area was. The biggest thing for that is make sure you do them. We do put sanctions we do put holds on account for missed and non-completed sanctions. Sorry, or session 1 got me all messed up.
And you mentioned the email bunch. Mm-hmm. You're referring to the Worcester State email. It always goes to the Worcester State email address,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, Worcester State deems the Worcester State University email an official mode of communication. And I mean, we're in 2017, so we're not doing snail mail anymore. Everything is going to your Worcester State account. It is your responsibility to check that. We send it. If you do not check your email, if you don't pick up your letter, that's the hearing is still going to happen with or without you there.
All right. So what happens to a student's conduct history? Talk a little bit about the history.
So a student's conduct history stays with you for the entire time you're enrolled at Worcester State, plus 7 years. So it stays for 7 years after you either graduate or separate from the university. It also is progressive. So after your freshman year, it doesn't erase. After your sophomore year, it doesn't erase. It is progressive for the entire time that you're here. So that is very important when it comes to sanctioning. Great.
What are some important things to remember about the conduct and the sanctioning process as a whole?
Well, the conduct process it's a time for the student to learn from what happened. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, it's educational. We don't want to jam anyone up. We don't want to ruin someone's day, month, college career, and we want to take care of it here, in an administrative level. In regards to sanction, like I talked about earlier, it's progressive. So when you come to, if you did come to orientation last week, in your packet was a minimum sanctions chart. If you're coming tomorrow, is session 2, day 1, or next week, there will be a minimum sanctions chart in your folder, which can also be found online, and it talks about level 1, 2, and 3. So when we talk about progressive, if someone gets caught with a level 1 alcohol and then get caught again, they'd bump up to level 2. So that's the progression that we talk about, and the progression gets, the sanctions are, for lack of a better term, more and more severe after, moving forward as you run up the progression level. And the other big thing I was saying is just complete them. I talked a little bit earlier about holds. We will put holds on students' accounts for incomplete sanctions. Those of you who are athletes, who are looking at participating in a club or organization, and for everyone watching now, resident students, being on disciplinary probation could affect you. Disciplinary probation is the probation that you're put on if you don't complete your sanctions. You can't participate in sports. You can't be a elected official in a club or organization. And for room selection in February? April, if you're on DP because of missed sanctions, you can't go through the housing process with your lottery number. It's not saying that you can't live on campus, but if you're lottery number 3, you go to the end after everyone's gone. So that is one of the reasons to keep sanctions on your radar and make sure that you do complete them in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll learn more about future room selection later on. So, but yeah. So how can a resident be a good member of our community here at Worcester State?
First off, know the policies and really be smart. I was an alum. I lived in the residence halls. I was an RA in the residence halls. So, it's a good community up here. Was it 1,600 now?
Yeah.
Give or take 1,600 now. So it's a smaller community than other schools that some of your friends may be going to. People know everybody.
Yeah.
We know everybody. It's a really close community, but you have to be smart about it. We want to keep the community up here that way, and that's why we have these policies in place. And I guess with everywhere too is be respectful. Be respectful of your neighbor, respectful of the Res Life staff, of the RAs, of my office. Respect goes a long way, especially in my book.
For sure. Awesome. Well, those are all of our questions for today, related to conduct and, being a great citizen here at Worcester State. Before we close, I guess we always come down to what's the big takeaway they want to make sure that people have. So what do you want to really make sure that residents know about the student conduct office or process as they transition here to Worcester State?
Well, I came up with two. I know it's one, but I got to do things a little different. So yeah. I came up with two.
Great.
My first one is that my office and the RDs who are also here says, we're not the bad guys. We're here to help. Just because we find students responsible and sanction them doesn't mean we don't want to help them. Talk to us. Communication is always key. We can work on anything under the purview of the code of conduct, sure, of course. Yeah. But we can work with students who might be having trouble making sanctions meet. We can delay them, extend them, but you have to be open. You have to communicate that because we don't know that. And two, like I said when I opened, I believe, is everyone makes mistakes. I know that. TK knows that. All the staff up here know that. It's going to happen. My advice is just own up to it. Take responsibility for your actions, learn from it, and move on. Again, I can't reiterate enough that if you are placed in a similar situation that got you before me or another hearing officer in the first place, and it comes up again and you make a different decision, that means they learned from it. That means you learned from it, and that's all that my office can ask for.
Great. Awesome. Well, Josh, thank you for joining me. I know it's busy between orientations. Yep. I know you got some more folks coming tomorrow and next week.
Yep. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Session 2, sure. Session 3 is next Monday.
Great. And
for those of you who don't, we'll see you in September.
Awesome. As always, thank you for being here. Thanks for watching, join along. If you miss an episode again, you can check us out on youtube.com/WSU-ResLife. We have a playlist for all these Hangouts for you, Woo Life. Next week we'll be back. We'll be talking about the license agreement again, roommate matching. We're going to talk a little bit about the assignments process and when you can kind of anticipate that occurring. We're also going to talk about our first year residential experience program. So we're super excited for that. As always, you can follow us on social media at WSU-ResLife, or you can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Woo Life. I'm Thomas Kelly, and this was Josh Katz, and we're signing off from Worcester State. Have a great Wednesday.